Now, Linda in Kennett Square says, how can each citizen help to get this passed, this bill, H.R. 1207?
I think it's dealing with your particular congressman. They are political animals. They want to stay there, and if the numbers are great enough, they will respond. And right now, one thing I've noticed in Washington, the people who are in marginal seats, Republicans getting into a little trouble, they realize that our numbers are growing. Supporters for limited government are growing, and they're trying to appeal to many of us. And then a Democrat, if a Democrat happens to be in a Republican seat but wants to hang on to it, they want to identify with what we're doing, and they're signing on to this bill too and trying to get active. So the key to it: go to town hall meetings, make phone calls, go to the offices, talk to the congressman when you can, talk to their legislative directors. So it's emails, faxes, the whole works. The very best thing is if you can get to a town hall meeting, talk to a congressman in person, and never be angry about it. Always talk about it in a serious way. Will you please take a look at this? And just play on this transparency, because this is the issue. We deserve to know, and the people want to know. Why wouldn't you be able to support something like this?
Now, I want to ask you about the possibility. Is there any value to introducing something that could be brought to a state-level vote across the country in all 50 states to support an audit of the Federal Reserve?
Oh, I think so. I think it wouldn't have, a lot of legal clout, but it would have, again, political clout, and it would be a good educational tool. And if you had just literally dozens and dozens of states passing these resolutions, I think it would be good. I think this has helped. I think eventually some of our drug laws are going to be changed because the states are changing them and passing resolutions. I think that's very good. So I think on the money issues, this would be helpful. And I love these resolutions, although it won't be held, up in court. But when a state said, we're only going to deal in silver and gold, we were told the only thing we could use is silver and gold as legal tender. It just makes them look so foolish. They're not going to accept the argument, but it makes them look so foolish that they at least have to think about, I guess that's true. That's what the Constitution says, and yet the states are speaking out. But I see all that activity as mostly educational but very beneficial.
Well, we've also got this movement now, this state sovereignty movement, states asserting their 10th Amendment rights. You brought up secession recently. What can you speak to about that movement?
Yeah, well, once again, they're good just for the publicity. But if the federal government cared about that issue, all they have to do is read the 10th Amendment themselves. But if the states do it, why should they listen to the states now? So I don't think it will change anything just because the states pass these, unless there's enough of them and there's enough pressure that will be put on the federal government. But the law is the law, and the Constitution is very clear that they shouldn't be doing anything like this. But they've been doing this for years and years and years of taking over all the state authority, and especially since the Civil War, it was eventually eliminated, this whole idea that states should have sovereignty rights.
Now, Roger in Rochester, New York is asking, have you gotten any feedback as to whether the committee will allow this to go to the floor?
I think there's a pretty good chance. Barney Frank was asked that at a meeting, I think it was on the Internet this week, and he said he was sympathetic, disagreed with me on monetary policy, but agreed with me absolutely. And he has promised me in public at the hearings, at banking committee hearings, that he will hold hearings on this. I think that he will give us a fair shake. I don't know whether he would ever let it come exactly the way I have it written, but it's not like they're absolutely closed-minded. Now, we might meet more resistance with Nancy Pelosi, but not with Barney Frank. I think Barney Frank, at the right time, will see to it that we get a fair hearing on it.
Now, we're telling people contact their congressman, tell them to endorse or co-sponsor the bill. Can people do the same thing with the committee? Can they contact the committee members and say, hey, raise awareness, raise pressure for the bill?
Yes, they can do that, and it's beneficial, but it's not nearly as effective as going to your own senators and your own congressmen, because we did. Bernie Sanders introduced that into the Senate. So I do have to run. I have another call coming in, but if you have one quickie, I can close up here.
Well, Dr. Paul, I just want to thank you for joining me on this edition of the Reality Report. Let's see, Jeff in Jacksonville says, how much more time will pass before we can begin to hear the mainstream media talk about 1207?
That's a good question. When you hear it, when CNN calls me up, or a couple other ones call me up and want to talk about this, then we know that day has arrived. It's not yet there, but it may be in the midst of a currency crisis where interest rates are very high and the cost of living is going up 10 or 20% a year. Then they might be much more interested. But we don't know the date that's going to be.
All right. Well, Dr. Paul, thank you so much for joining us and taking time from your busy schedule. And we hope to have you back on the Reality Report and speaking to the people. So you have a great day. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. By far, this is one of the most important bills ever to hit the floor of Congress. And if you feel as strongly as I do, then you need to contact your representative and tell them to support H.R. 1207, the Federal Reserve Accountability Act. The Federal Reserve has never been audited, and now the people have a real chance to pull back the curtain and expose the banksters to the American people. It is our solemn responsibility as Americans to do whatever it takes to restore prosperity and freedom to the Republic. Thomas Jefferson said it best. I believe that banking institutions are more dangerous to our liberties than standing armies. If the American people ever allow private banks to control the issuance of their currency, first by inflation, then by deflation, the banks and corporations that will grow up around them will deprive the people of all property until their children wake up homeless on the continent their fathers conquered. And that is exactly what is happening today. And H.R. 1207, I feel, is the first step in abolishing the Federal Reserve System. Visit campaignforliberty.com and auditthefed.com, and let's work to get this bill passed. The future of our children and our republic is at stake. Thank you for joining me on this edition of the Reality Report on Freedom.tv. I'm Gary Franchi, and remember, I am not here to make you a follower. I'm here to make you a leader among the people. Please spread the message of the free and independent media by posting this video on your favorite blogs and forums. Good night.